to promote. The point of this was to promote supportive, safe, empowering and inclusive environments for lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans and gender-diverse, intersex, queer and questioning young people.
Thank you, Senator Rennick. The time for 2-minute statements has expired. We're now going to move to question time. Senator McGrath.
Thank you. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations, Senator Watt. United Workers Union Secretary Tim Kennedy said that workplace laws should most definitely be amended to allow workers to hit major companies with strikes at the same time. Minister, will you guarantee that the Albanese Labor government will not allow this to occur?
Minister. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator McGrath, for the question. What is it about the opposition that all they want to do is talk about conflict? What is it about them? They can't. The simple concept.
Minister, resume your seat. We'll just wait for quiet so we can all hear the minister's response. Senator Mackenzie. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. As I say, what is it about these people? They've been in government for 9 years, delivered a wages and bargaining system that is completely broken, had low wages as a design feature of their economic policy.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Mackenzie.
Is it with this minister that he refuses to answer the most basic of questions?
Sorry, Senator Mackenzie. Order. Order. May I remind senators, if you are seeking to make a point of order, you stand and you indicate to the Senate that you are making a point of order, and that is not a point of order. Please continue. Minister Watt.
Thank you, President. It really is a shame that after an election, after a Jobs and Skills Summit, which saw the country brought together by a new government, that the only group that doesn't want to accept that people want to cooperate is the opposition. We know what it's like to be in opposition. We were there for a few years. The approach we took was that you pick your fights. You actually look for constructive opportunities when you can. You pick your fights when you really have to. But this opposition, all they seem to do is whatever the idea, they're against it. They'd be against the sun rising in the east. They'd be against the sun setting in the west because they want to oppose everything that happens. Now, the opposition want to continue fighting, just like they did for 9 years. They want to continue delivering lower productivity, lower wages through a conflict-driven IR system. But it's not just an IR system that they want to maintain the conflict. I was very interested to see—
Senator McGrath, please resume your seat. Senator Watt, sorry. Senator McGrath.
Point of order, President, on relevance. The question was very tightly worded, and the minister has come nowhere near answering the question. In fact, has gone anywhere near but answering the question. I'd ask you to get the minister to come back and answer the question, please.
Thank you, Senator McGrath. I would remind senators that question time should be conducted in relative quiet. It has been very hard for me to hear Senator Watt, despite Senator Watt being able to project his voice. But I'll remind Senator Watt of the question, and you have 37 seconds left to answer the question. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, President. The government have made very clear that we will be consulting employers, unions and a range of other people as to how this agreement will be implemented and deal with all of those issues. But again, I was very concerned to see some reports this morning in The Australian that in response to COSBOA's comments about reaching an agreement on these matters, coalition backbenchers were, quote, out for blood on the issue. Now, we've heard a lot about thuggery and intimidation from the other side when it comes to industrial relations. Well, who are the thugs now? Who's doing the intimidating now? In fact, some coalition MPs argued that COSBOA had betrayed small business owners, likening it to a snake.
Your time
That's
has
the kind of
expired. Senator McGrath, first supplementary.
Minister, can you guarantee that there will be no productivity losses caused by industry-wide bargaining and strike action?
Minister.
Thank you, President. Senator McGrath, I don't know who's feeding you your questions, but you really should have a read of them before you ask them. You want to talk about lower productivity in this country. Who was responsible for lower productivity over the last 9 years? You. It was the opposition that was responsible for that through a conflict-driven IR system.
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Payne, I would ask the Senate to listen quietly so that we can all hear the response from the minister. Order. Minister.
Thank you, President. It's actually good to know Senator Payne's still here. I hadn't heard much from her since the election, so it's good to hear from her. But we want to talk about lower productivity.
Minister,
oh, you're back. You're back. You're back.
Order. Minister.
No, I'm welcoming more contributions from Senator Payne. That's what I'm doing. Now, seriously, lower productivity. You want to talk about an IR system that delivers lower productivity? Have a look in the mirror. You had 9 years of delivering lower productivity through an IR system that was all about conflict and not about agreement. That's what we're trying to fix. We're trying to fix an IR system that is riven by conflict, and you want to drag us back to a system with lower productivity and lower wages. That's why the Australian people voted against you, because they want more agreement and less conflict.
Your time has expired. Senator McGrath, second supplementary.
Given rising interest rates, rising inflation and businesses battling the increased costs of doing business, why is the Albanese government prioritising policies that will encourage economy-wide strike action?
Minister.
Senator McGrath is correct. We do see cost of living pressures in this country at the moment, and that's why we have a range of policies in place to deal with it, such as delivering wage rises. That's the best way to deliver cost of living relief, is to get people's wages up.
Minister, please resume your seat. Can we please have quiet when the minister is answering? Senator McKenzie, I've just pulled the Senate up, and Senator Wong, for the constant interjections. I would appreciate it when the minister is answering the question to do your questions, to give him the courtesy of listening to the answer. Please continue, Minister.
Thank you, President. As I say, we recognise there are cost of living pressures in this country, and that's why we're acting on it. We're acting on it in terms of cheaper childcare. We're acting on it in cheaper medicines. We're putting downward pressure on energy prices. That is part of our commitment, as we have said. And more importantly, we are lifting wages at the same time. Which government supported a minimum wage rise? The Albanese Labor government. Who opposed it? The opposition. Which government supported a wage rise for aged care workers? The Albanese Labor government. Who opposed it? The opposition. That is how we're going to fix cost of living pressures, not by dragging our IR system back to the past and then accusing people who have the right to stand up for it for being out for blood.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator McGrath, these were your questions, and don't answer back, thank you. I'm asking you to respect the question that you asked and the answer that's being given. Thank you, Senator McGrath. Have you finished, Minister? Senator O'Neill.
Thank you very much, President. And my question is to the Minister for Women, Senator Gallagher. Can the minister outline how the recent Jobs and Skills Summit, which I was privileged to attend on Thursday morning, placed women front and centre to ensure gender equality is a core economic priority?
Minister.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for the question and acknowledge her advocacy in relation to women's policy over the years and acknowledge that today. The Albanese Labor Government's Jobs and Skills Summit brought together Australians, including unions, employers, civil society and governments, to find common ground on some of our big economic challenges and to drive a consensus towards the solutions. And women's economic equality was a core focus of the summit. I've been really pleased by the response to date at the role of women at the summit. They were more than 50% of the participants. They led the panels, they led the debate. There were some amazing speakers that attended the summit, full of talent and just amazing to witness their contributions and the fact that they were centre stage and a key focus of it. Gender equality and women's economic participation were points of discussion across all of the sessions at the Jobs and Skills Summit. The two-day summit's first session was focused specifically on this topic, where participants in the policy space around equal opportunity and pay were discussed, but so were issues like the care economy, boosting work and training opportunities for women, and examining how we can make all workplaces safer for women, and practical measures to reduce the gender pay gap were all discussed at the summit. I think one of the key outcomes of the summit, apart from the fact that the women and the talented women at the summit were so amazing was that there was agreement across all participants that women's economic equality should be seen as a key economic priority, something that I know many senators like Senator McAllister and Senator Waters have been arguing for some time.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Neill, first supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. Can the Minister highlight the measures for women that have been announced out of the Jobs and Skills Summit?
Minister.
Thank you very much, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for the supplementary. The government, following the summit, there were a number of areas where we did reach agreement. One of them was around modernising Australia's workplace relations laws to make sure that bargaining is accessible for all workers and businesses, including those really feminised industries where we have seen really low wages growth and the failure of the bargaining system to work for women. Improving access to jobs and training pathways for women, First Nations people, regional Australians and culturally, linguistically diverse people, including equity targets for training places, 1,000 digital apprenticeships in the Australian Public Service and other measures to reduce barriers to employment. We're also making sure that the APS is leading by example by reporting to WGEA and to set targets on improving gender equity in the public service, and there were a range of other agreements around reporting data through to WGEA.
Thank you, Minister. Senator O'Neill, second supplementary.
Thank you for that report on the practical action arising. Can the Minister outline how this builds on existing commitments made by the Albanese Labor government to advance the issues facing Australian women and restore national leadership on gender equality?
Minister.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for a question, and she's right. I mean, for too long, women's policy was in the wilderness under the previous government. It's front and centre in this government. That's the big change. Everything we discuss, every policy developed, every consideration, we will have an analysis of what that means for women. How does that impact women? Is it good? Is it bad? How do we change it to make sure it deals with some of the issues that comes out of that research? And I would note, it's no surprise that Mr Morrison didn't take on the Ministry for Women portfolio when he was taking Senator Birmingham's portfolio. Poor old Senator Birmingham, he shared his finance ministry for the entire time he was finance minister with the Prime Minister, unlike Tony Abbott, who did take the women's ministry. But we are putting women's policy front and centre, and I look forward to working with all interested senators on doing just that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Dean Smith.
Very much, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Assistant Treasurer and Minister for Financial Services, Senator Gallagher. Does the Minister know of any Treasury portfolio precedent for removing transparency on payments through aggregation, as has been delivered for the superannuation industry and trade unions in regulations released last Friday?
Minister.
Thank you, President, and I would have to take on notice the precedent question that you asked, because I do want to make sure that all of my answers here are accurate, and I'm sorry, but I don't have all of that dating back to 1901, where your question leads me to. So I would want to have a look at that. I would also say that the regulations tabled by the Assistant Treasurer and Minister for Financial Services, I think, had responded to some of the concerns that had been raised around transparency in this place, and amended from the draft regulations to ensure that those questions around transparency could be dealt with. So I'm sure the Senate will have more to say on this as it debates these regulations, but I think the Assistant Treasurer had responded to some of the concerns, and that data will be provided. But as you know, and I think I've heard it from you guys plenty of times over the years, to making sure reporting is transparent but it's also efficient and effective is equally important.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, first supplementary.
Madam President, this is not my first supplementary, but just a query. Does this mean that the information will be provided at the end of question time?
Senator Smith, you will recall I reminded the Senate at the beginning of question time, if you are seeking a point of order, say it. I've invited you to make your first supplementary.
My query is whether or not Senator Gallagher will
Senator Smith, resume your seat. Either ask your first supplementary or I'll have no alternative other than to move on.
My first supplementary question is, can the minister confirm that payments from super funds to unions could rise from $12.9 million in 2021-22 to $35 million in 2030? Can the minister further confirm that the details of these payments will now be hidden from super fund members?
Minister.
Thank you. Thank you, and I thank Senator Smith for the supplementary. I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from, so I would want to check on those before going to the specifics. But look, we know you're opposed to super. We know you can't stand industry funds. We know you don't like unions. You don't like unions. You don't like industry funds. You don't like super. You can't bear it. The regulations will allow transparent reporting of information, streamlining some of the requirements. They will still be required to do a whole range of reporting. I know you're obsessed with the fact that you think that industry super funds make political donations, which is where this is going. They've been asked about that. They say they don't. We've asked the independent regulator, APRA, who has been poring over this issue, and they haven't found anything. So let's debate it. I'm sure we'll have the opportunity to debate these when the regs come before the Senate.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Smith, second supplementary.
Thank you very much, Madam President. The Assistant Treasurer and Minister for Financial Services justified the recently updated regulations on superannuation annual members' meeting notices by claiming that the previous disclosure rules were too onerous on funds. What is the estimated cost saving the industry may be able to benefit from as a result of these new measures?
Thank you, Senator Smith. Minister.
Thank you, Madam President. And I will take that part of the question on notice as well, and I'll come back to the chamber if I can provide further information. But I would say that under the draft regulations that no doubt this Senate will debate, funds will still be required to provide written notice to members which details fund performance, their outcomes for the period, the total payments they make to industrial bodies, marketing and advocacy. If I can provide further information around this, notwithstanding the fact that we acknowledge the opposition are opposed to superannuation, really. If you were able to say it, you would. Senator Rennick just said it was evil. You just said it was evil. We know what you're on about. You're obsessed with industry funds, you're obsessed with super, you're obsessed with working people actually having a decent retirement.
Senator Scarr and Senator McGrath, I believe you were directing those comments directly at the Minister, and I'd asked them to be withdrawn without repeating the offence.
I withdraw.
Thank you. Thank you. Minister, have you finished? Senator Cox.
2 weeks ago, the government opened up 47,000 square kilometres of Australia's oceans for gas and oil exploration. The science is overwhelmingly clear.
Senator Cox, I don't want to interrupt you, but the question is directed
to
which
question
minister?
is to Minister Farrell.
Thank you. Please continue.
Yeah, can't help that one. Sorry, can't help that one.
Order.
To Minister Farrell, representing the Minister for Resources. In order for us to avoid this climate disaster, we simply can't open up any new fossil fuel or gas fields. What formula did the Minister for Resources apply in making the decision to ensure that the recent announcement didn't contravene the government's own 43% emissions reduction target and Australia's commitments under the Paris Agreement?
Thank you, Senator Cox. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank the Senator for the question. And I'd start by prefacing my comments that Senator King has been doing Minister King has been doing a terrific job in this space since she came into the portfolio. Very fine job. The Albanese, if you'd let me, with respect, Senator, if you'd let me finish my answer. The
Order.
As distinct from the now opposition, the Albanese government went to the last election with a commitment that we would introduce.
Minister, please resume your seat.
Sorry.
Senator Cox.
The question was quite direct. What formula did the minister apply in her decision-making in this recent announcement about ocean acreage?
And you're raising a point of order?
Yes. On relevance, yes.
Yeah. Senator Cox, I'll just draw your... sorry. Minister, I'll just draw your attention back to the question put by Senator Cox.
Thank you. Thank you. That'll be later. The Albanese government went to the last election with a commitment to reduce emissions by 43% by 2030, and that's what we're going to do. That's the commitment we made to the Australian people. That's the commitment we will deliver on, and in a very short space of time, you're going to get a chance to vote on that very commitment. Now, in the meantime, we need to transition from the current position that we find ourselves in to that 43% reduction. And the way in which we're going to do that.
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Cox, first supplementary.
Considering...
Order. Senator Cox.
Considering we didn't get an answer to that one, can the minister provide a time frame in which the government will sign and implement the Global Methane Pledge for a transition out of fossil fuels into a cleaner, greener energy future?
Minister Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank the senator for her question. The minister, Minister King, has of course been dealing with all of these issues. They are important issues. They're difficult issues. They are issues. Well, we took a series of commitments. We took a series. We took.
Order. Order. Senator Wong.
It's the wrong
Minister, please continue.
Thank you, Madam President. We took a series of commitments to the last election, and we were elected as the government of this country. One of those commitments was the 43% emission reduction target by 2030 and the zero emission target by...
Thank you, Minister. Your time has expired. Senator Cox, second supplementary.
Let's try a different tack, shall we? I don't know, Deb, are you asking the question?
Order.
Minister Stavaro, when will this government listen to the voices of First Nations people who have not provided free, prior informed consent to the destruction of their cultural heritage and continue to see disrespect for their self-governance and determination of economic development relating to resources projects on their country? Go on.
Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank the senator for her question. There is no government in this country's history that's got a greater commitment to dealing with the issue of Indigenous disadvantage than the Albanese Labor government. We intend to deliver on all of the promises that we made to Indigenous Australians in the lead up to the last election, and that, of course, includes a referendum on the voice for the first.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Thorpe.
Point of order, President. Relevance. The question was on free, prior and informed consent. Yep. We don't want to hear about them flag waving for blackfellas. We want to know how they got consent.
Senator Thorpe, resume your seat. And I do remind you and other senators, when you put a point of order, it is about the question. It is short and sharp, and it does not include any additional comments such as those that you made. The minister is being relevant. Please continue, Minister Farrell.
Thank you, Madam President. This government has made a commitment to Indigenous Australians. That commitment includes, amongst other things, a referendum on the voice, giving Indigenous Australians a voice in this parliament. That is what we intend.
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Grogan.
My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Wong. Can the Minister outline to the Senate the importance of ending the climate wars and legislating a target on climate change?
Minister.
Thank you, President, and thank you to Senator Grogan and for your advocacy as well on climate and other progressive issues over many years. And those on this side of the chamber understand that action on climate change isn't just good for the future of the country, it isn't just necessary because of the situation we see around the globe, it's also good for our economy. It's good for Australian jobs. That's what it's good for. I know this is difficult for those opposite to understand. After 9 years of the climate wars being a centrepiece of your political project, it is hard for you to understand that there is actually a way forward that is about jobs and about dealing with climate. The legislation.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Ruston.
Madam President, I was just seeking some advice from you as to whether this question was in order.
Is this a point of order?
No, I'm actually seeking some advice from you in relation to whether this question is in order given the matter that is currently before debate in this chamber in government business.
Thank you, Senator Ruston. I'll seek some advice. Senator Ruston, as long as anyone answering this question does not go to the specifics of the bill before the Senate, then it is perfectly fine to talk in generalities. Order! Order! In the way the ministers are doing. Minister Wong.
Thank you. I anticipated this might happen, actually, because... Can I tell you why? Because we know those on the other side will do anything not to talk about climate change. You will do anything not to talk about climate action. You will do anything not to debate the bill. And you will do anything to ignore that the Australian people clearly voted for action on climate. And you can't bear it, can you? You can't bear it. You can't bear it that the climate war that you thought would continue to yield a political dividend might actually end. You can't bear it. Now, I would just make a point, Madam President, that President Reid in 1999 made this point, that questions may not be asked on the detail of the bill or debate, but otherwise the topic is not barred from questioning. But I know that it's a hard thing, isn't it? If you're a member of the coalition, you just don't want to talk about climate because Senator Payne doesn't agree with Senator Canavan and Senator McKenzie doesn't agree with Senator Ruston. And they are utterly divided on this. They are utterly divided on this, and the voters know it.
The time has expired. Order. I'm going to wait for quiet. And I would ask once again, it is order. Senator McKenzie. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Excellent response, Minister. Thank you so much. Can the Minister outline the threats to certainty that underpin the investment needed to address climate change?
Minister.
I thank the Senator for a question. And, you know, it's really interesting, isn't it, that the party that believes they're the party of business, the party that believes they're the party of investment, well, they're actually more like the old Soviet Union. They're more like the old Soviet Union, standing in the way of progress, standing in the way of the market. And, you know, those opposite have presided over 9 years. 9 years of division and delay and dysfunction when it comes to climate. And, you know, if you talk to the Business Council of Australia, if you talk to the National Farmers Federation, if you talk to ACCI, all of them are welcoming a government that is actually prepared to give the market certainty, something you could never deliver when in government because of your deep divisions on this issue. The climate wars can end. We will, on this side, see that as a step forward.
Minister.
I know
Your
it's deeply
time has
distressing
expired.
for the—
Senator Grogan, second supplementary.
As you've pointed out, the Australians made a very clear choice at the election that they wanted action on climate change following a wasted decade under the Liberals and the Nationals. How does the Albanese Labor government climate policies deliver on action and put an end to the coalition's climate wars?
Before I call the minister, I'm going to ask for quiet when the minister responds. Minister.
Well, President, Australians did send the parliament a clear message. They voted for action on climate change. Yep. Australians in Wentworth, Australians in North Sydney, Australians in Warringah, in Mackellar, in Goldstein, in Higgins, in Boothby, in Curtin and Kooyong made their interests very clear. It's very clear, and I know those opposite really don't like to hear just how out of step with the Australian people they are. Listen to them. This is the most animated you've been since the election.
Wong. I'm waiting for quiet. Interjections are incredibly disorderly and people on my left are yelling. Minister, please continue.
Yeah, they yell, President, because they really have nothing to say on this. That's why they yell. They've got nothing to say. I'll take the interjection from Senator Watt. They've lost their reason for being, which is a decade of the climate wars preventing progress. And now what are you going to do? What are you going to do when the bill comes before the chamber? The question for the Liberal Party and the National Party, will you learn from your mistakes? That's the question for the coalition.
Minister, resume your seat. Senator D. Pocock.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Wong. Has the Clean Energy Regulator raised any concerns with the government about the integrity of or design of two recent ACCU methods, the plantation forestry or landfill gas methods?
Minister.
Thank you to the— Yes, I was getting some advice from Minister Bowen about the direct question. It's a dreadful thing to actually want to advise the Parliament, isn't it?
Order.
Such a dreadful thing.
Order.
I know that seems like an odd thing. You'd actually want to try and advise the Parliament. Senator, thank you for the question and thank you for your interest in this issue. I know that there have been a number of public concerns raised about the probity and the veracity of the units. Can I advise from Minister Bowen's office that the Clean Energy Regulator has not raised any concerns. However, concerns have obviously been raised externally by others, including, I think, the Senator and others who have been in the media. I'm advised that these are being dealt with by the Chubb review, which I'm happy to give further information on when I can find that piece of paper. So, Minister Bowen has commissioned a review by Professor Chubb, who, as you would know, is the former Chief Scientist, along with an expert panel. This was promised before the election. Minister Bowen, in opposition, indicated that we would, if we won government, commission an independent review to ensure the integrity carbon credits and their consistency with our agricultural biodiversity and other goals. Professor Ian Chubb has been appointed and is supported by 3 other experts in the fields of governance, science and carbon markets. The review will examine scheme governance and the integrity of key carbon crediting methods, including whether transparency could be improved.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, first supplementary.
Thank you, Senator Wong. I find it strange that the regulator hasn't raised any concerns when I've received a letter that acknowledges the need to reform the landfill gas methods from companies that represent over 80% of the ACCUs generated under this method. Given the regulator hasn't raised concerns, despite industry having concerns, are you worried that there's an inherent conflict of interest between the regulator both creating methods and then actually regulating them?
Thank you, Senator. Minister.
Well, I thank the senator for the supplementary question, and I can say to him, as someone who does believe, unlike some in this place, in the benefits of utilising the market for good rather than for bad, that we do need integrity in the system of carbon credits to ensure that there is additionality. We're actually reducing Australia's emissions and using an incentive to do so. I have seen some of the reporting, including, as the senator says, from firms engaging in the market. I understand the concerns he's raising. Can I say to him, these are some of the reasons why Minister Bowen has taken the view that an independent review is appropriate, and that is underway.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Pocock, second supplementary.
President, and thank you, Senator Wong. As you pointed out, given the need for transparency and accountability and ultimately integrity in our carbon markets, will the government commit to including a review of the regulator as a function of the Chubb review?
Minister.
Look, I think, obviously, I'll raise the issue you raise with Minister Bowen, but I would make the point, if the review is looking at scheme governance and integrity of carbon crediting methods, then obviously what we want is all aspects of scheme governance to be appropriate. As I said, these are matters which have been discussed publicly. We understand the need for integrity in the market, particularly if, as we hope, the legislation which the opposition don't want me to talk about passes this chamber, then obviously there is a framework which would incentivise that. But I think that the terms of the review, as I understand them from the advice I've received, do extend to scheme governance, and that's appropriate.
Thank you. Senator Patterson.
My question is to the Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Gallagher. In July this year, the Reserve Bank Governor issued a warning to the new government, and I quote, "An important consideration is how inflation expectations and the general inflation psychology in the community evolve. If inflation expectations shift up and businesses and workers come to expect higher rates of inflation on an ongoing basis, it will be harder to return inflation to target. It is in our collective interest that this does not happen." End quote. Does the Minister agree with the Governor of the RBA?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. And yes, I do agree with the Governor on those comments, but I also would draw Senator Patterson's attention to the comments that the Governor has been making for some time about wages growth essentially being a handbrake on the economy and advocating for sustainable and sensible wages growth, which we haven't seen now for a decade. And that is a problem in the economy. So, yes, the Governor is right to raise the concerns around having wages rise exponentially, and out of control. But that is not what we're seeing in this country. We're not seeing inflation, and the problems with inflation are not being driven by wages, because wages haven't been moving anywhere, because they were a deliberate design feature of those opposite to keep them suppressed and, at best, stagnant. So we have to find the balance. We need sustainable, sensible wages growth for working people.
Minister, please resume your seat. Senator Birmingham.
President, point of order on direct relevance. The quote from the RBA Governor that Senator Patterson read had no reference to wages growth, which has been the dominant feature of everything the minister's been going on about for close to a minute now in her time. That the question and the quote relate specifically to broader inflationary impacts and expectations across the economy.
Thank you, Senator Birmingham. I, like you, have been listening closely to the minister, and I believe that she is being directly relevant to the question, and I invite her to continue.
Thank you, Madam President. Sorry, dropped the madam. I believed I answered the question. Sorry, I'm happy to deal with it in the supplementary, but I think I have been directly relevant, and I think that goes to some of the challenges facing the economy at the moment, which the RBA bank is dealing with on the monetary side, and we are dealing with on the fiscal side, is getting that balance right, making sure that we're not adding to inflationary pressures, but also making sure that working people are getting a bit of a crack at it and getting some suitable compensation to deal with those increasing costs of living that they're experiencing from rising inflation. And I would say the announcement that been made by the RBA today will add to some of those pressures on households, and the challenge is for the bank and for the government to work hand in hand to make sure we're doing what we can to ease those pressures on people.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Patterson, first supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. I thank the Minister for her answer to my primary question and her agreement with the RBA Governor that we should not add to inflation expectations. But only 8 days after the Governor issued this warning, the Assistant Treasurer said prices for goods could go up, quote, 10, 15 or 20%, and went on to predict hyperinflation and strikes. He later predicted a very rocky 12 months for the Australian economy. Given the Assistant Treasurer's language and his position adds significantly to the market's inflationary expectations, has the Treasurer, the Minister for Finance, the Prime Minister counselled the Assistant Treasurer on the impact of his comments on inflation expectations?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Oh, I'm going to take a bit of a punt on the fact that Senator Patterson is quoting selectively and has crafted that question himself. The government's expectations for inflation are outlined in the Treasurer's statement that he made in July. That is that we would see inflation peak at 7.75% in the December quarter. That is the government's position on inflation, and I think it aligns with the RBA's.
Senator Patterson, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President, and I welcome the Finance Minister clarifying the Assistant Treasurer doesn't speak for the government on inflation. Today, the Reserve Bank has raised interest rates by 50 basis points. Again, the fourth rate rise now under this government. The RBA is having to lift interest rates to address skyrocketing inflation. Why is the Treasurer and his colleagues continuing to ignore the RBA Governor's warning, the Assistant Treasurer, and predicting hyperinflation and economic tumult?
Thank you, Senator Patterson. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, honestly, the nerve of these questions, it really is staggering. We inherited an economy with rising inflation and rising interest rates. Just let's not forget this. As a result of 9 years of you guys with wasted opportunities and wrong or failed priorities, 22 energy policies, a gas and energy crisis that we also inherited, a skills crisis that we also inherited, terminating measures that just drop off into the ether, a budget in a mess we also inherited. We are dealing with the realities of what happens when you have a Prime Minister with 10 portfolios or more, because he didn't trust any of you. He didn't trust any of you.
Minister.
And we're dealing with a mess.
Resume your seat. Senator Birmingham, I've got a senator from your team on his feet, presumably with a point of order. Senator Patterson.
You have correctly anticipated, Madam President, on relevance. The question was about the Assistant Treasurer disregarding the advice of the RBA Governor about inflation expectations, not the other matters Senator Gallagher was going to.
Thank you, Senator Patterson. The question was in part about that, but it was also about the Reserve Bank increasing interest rates today, skyrocketing inflation and a number of other things. So I do believe that the Minister is being relevant. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. And yes, you're right. In your ruling, the preamble was accusatory and ignored the fact that 9 years of this mob had left the economy and the budget in a complete shambles, and nobody in the government is disagreeing with the...
Senator Tyrrell. Senator Tyrrell.
Oh, apologies. We were having a meeting and I apologise, President.
Thank you.
My question is for the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Minister, let's talk about the Australian Future Leaders Foundation. It's a foundation with no website. It appears to have no office, no staff and no previous record. When the grant was approved, there was no competitive process. A merits review wasn't done. Despite all that, the previous government promised the foundation $18 million to set it up and $4 million a year to run it. The Governor-General might think it's a great idea, but with all due respect, Minister, there's no detail, let alone transparency. Where does your government stand on continuing the support for the foundation?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister Wong.
Can I thank Senator Tyrrell for her question and say I have a little bit of knowledge in this, although I suspect my colleague, as in most things, Senator Gallagher has more. I am aware of this because this came to light, as you correctly identify, under the previous government, and it was an issue at estimates that we did ask some questions about, and some of the issues that you avert to were raised by people in the context of preparing for that estimates round. I'm advised, or I understand, that measure, along with a number of other measures that were announced by the previous government, is under review and will be considered in the context of the budget preparation.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Tyrrell, first supplementary.
The Morrison government gave the Australian Future Leaders Foundation deductible gift recipient status last March. Apparently the amendments were written up and approved a lot faster than normal. Is your government reviewing that decision?
Minister.
I can seek further advice on that, Senator Tyrrell, but I would anticipate that would be relevant to the review in the context of the budget, as I've described.
Senator Tyrrell, second supplementary.
Minister, media reports suggest the Morrison government's promise to give the foundation funding overlapped with the former Prime Minister's moves to take over more ministries. The Governor-General was involved in both decisions. I'm not suggesting he has done anything wrong, but aren't you worried about the public perception that creates?
Minister.
I'm not advised, nor am I aware of how those decisions correlate or don't correlate with some of the media reporting of the swearing in of Mr Morrison to a number of other portfolios, which has subsequently come to light. So I'm not in a position to sort of give you an answer on that. Obviously, in relation to the swearing in, the issue of multiple ministries, the Prime Minister has commissioned an inquiry. I think that there is a view that many Australians have expressed, which I think you're reverting to, that would be a good thing if there was more transparency around those sorts of arrangements. But obviously the review will deal with that. And in relation to the DGR status, again, I'll take advice and see what I'm able to give you, but I would assume that's likely to be relevant to the consideration of the measure through the budget process.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Sheldon.
My question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. The Independent Reserve Bank just released its monthly interest rates decision. Can the Minister update the Senate on what that decision was and what it means for Australians, particularly for those with a mortgage?
Minister.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Sheldon for the question. The government understands that Australians are doing it tough and that household budgets are under real pressure. The Independent Reserve Bank has just announced its decision to increase interest rates by another 50 basis points to bring the cash rate to 2.35%. This has been widely predicted, but we know that doesn't make it any easier for homeowners. We know that this means families will have to make more hard decisions about how to make ends meet. In terms of what it means for an average homeowner owing $330,000, they will have to find about $95 a month extra for repayments, on top of the $310 extra in repayments since early May. For Australians with a typical $500,000 mortgage, it's about an extra $145 a month, in addition to the extra $475 they've had to find since early May. We know that interest rate rises means families have to make those hard decisions about how to make ends meet. But as the Senate knows, it's not the job of the government to interfere with the independent decisions of the Reserve Bank. The Albanese government's plan is about steering the economy through this difficult period and building that better future that the Australian people deserve. We'll do this, President, by investing in the productive capacity of the economy, making those sensible and considered policy decisions and investments that won't add to inflationary pressures. But if we look at areas, and in particular the areas we focused on in the Jobs and Skills Summit around access to cheaper and more affordable childcare, to cut the price of medicines, to fast-track those fee-free TAFE places, to bring them forward, Senator Hume, to next year, the increase that we've seen in pensions, allowances and rent assistance, and of course the legislation—
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Sheldon, first supplementary.
Can the minister explain what the government is doing to assist Australians with current cost of living pressures that have built up over a number of many years?
Minister.
President, and since we formed government, we've hit the ground running, implementing our policies that we outlined in the election campaign to respond to the cost of living crisis that we inherited from you lot, those opposite. We can't solve 10 years of neglect and wasted opportunities overnight. We have to start by acknowledging that, but it is our job to do what we responsibly can to help Australians deal with these pressures in the short term and build a more resilient economy that is better able to withstand future shocks. That's why we're making childcare cheaper through our $5 billion investment in the October budget. It's why we're making medicines cheaper. It's why we argued for a minimum wage increase and why we're starting to get the work going on, get wages moving again. It's why we're lifting the speed limit on the economy with more investment in TAFE, more investment in cheaper and cleaner energy. Do you like that? Cheaper and cleaner energy.
Thank you, Minister. Your time has expired. Senator Sheldon, second supplementary. Sorry, Senator.
Yes,
order. Order. Thank you, Senator Sheldon. Second supplementary.
Can the minister outline the importance of having a clear plan that will grow the economy and how that will help Australians through these challenging times?
Thank you. Minister.
Senator Sheldon for the question. And unlike the previous government, which didn't have an economic plan, it just had a Prime Minister that wanted to grab up any portfolio he could. That's the only plan that you guys had. You didn't know what each other was doing. Our economic plan is a deliberate and direct response to the economic circumstances that were left by those opposite. You hate hearing about it, don't you? Because you know it's true.
Order. Order. The minister needs to be heard in silence. Thank you. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. We inherited an economy characterised with high and rising inflation, flat and falling real wages and a productivity paralysis. That is your record. We also inherited a budget with $1 trillion of debt, deficits as far as I can see, billions of dollars chucked in the way of the National Party in a hope that they'd keep your coalition together. That's your record. We're not going to stand here and be lectured by you guys about any cost of living crisis, considering we're the ones dealing with the mess that you left us and you abandoned Australia in the process.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Davey.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister for Emergency Management, Senator Watt. Minister, as you're very well aware, the Liberals and Nationals in government made a commitment to the residents of Lismore that the entire $150 million allocation from the 22 to 23 Emergency Response Fund would be directed to Lismore for its rebuilding and flood mitigation efforts. Do you intend to stand by this commitment?
Minister.
Thank you, President. Short answer is yes. Thank you, Senator, for the question. The good thing about answering the question quickly is you can spend the next 1 minute 50 talking about other things. Well, related things.
Order.
But Senator Davey, I know that you have a genuine interest in the people of Lismore and the Northern Rivers. I think you've been there since your appointment as the Shadow Minister, as have I, and most recently Senator Sheldon, the new Special Envoy for Disaster Recovery appointed by the Prime Minister to ensure that communities who are experiencing disasters recovery are getting the support that they need. In fact, Senator Sheldon was in Lismore just last week, on Friday I believe it was, announcing additional support for the Northern Rivers in the form of around $50 million to support commercial landlords with grants. the importance of that, as Senator Sheldon so eloquently put in the press conference that he undertook in Lismore, is that there are many small businesses who are located in commercial premises and those small businesses are not able to reopen yet because the commercial landlords have not been able to afford to repair their properties. So that assistance, which is contributed to by the New South Wales Government, will assist with not just the landlords but the small businesses as well. So again, can I thank Senator Sheldon for the work that he's been doing there. But the money that Senator Davey is talking about, of course, comes from the infamous Emergency Response Fund. Remember that one? The Emergency Response Fund that the government set up over 3 years ago with $4 billion in it, that accrued the former government over $800 million in interest, did not build a single disaster mitigation project, did not spend a cent on disaster recovery. It took the devastating floods we saw in the Northern Rivers in Queensland for any announcements to be made. And which government is going to deliver on them? The Albanese Labor government.
Senator Davey, first supplementary.
Yes, well, thank you, Minister. I always appreciate a quick answer, and I appreciate you being so succinct. So yes, Lismore, you get $150 million in this financial year. So the Prime Minister recently announced $75 million of funding from the Emergency Response Fund to be spread across 62 local government areas in New South Wales. Can you confirm that this money is from the 2021 to 22 pool?
Minister.
Thank you, President. Nice short answer. Yes, I can. So just to assist Senator Davey, the previous question was about the allocation of $150 million from the unused Emergency Response Fund for 22-23, and that money will be used for the Northern Rivers, not just Lismore, but for the Northern Rivers. The money that you're talking about there, the $75 million, came from the 2021-22 allocation from the Emergency Response Fund. And as Senator Mackenzie would know, because I think she was involved in making the announcement as the then Minister, the remaining $75 million from the 21-22 allocation will be spent in Queensland, assisting them recover from their floods. So it's $150 million for each of those 2 financial years. The first of those 2 years is being split between Queensland and New South Wales, and that will be spent in New South Wales across the whole state because, of course, there were other areas that experienced floods too.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Davey, second supplementary.
So thank you very much. As I now understand it, you have just confirmed that the announcement made by the Prime Minister at the Bush Summit claiming $75 million was new money for the people of Lismore was in fact the same money as announced by the Liberals and Nationals in government in March this year, re-announced by yourself in June this year, and now announced for a third time by the Prime Minister. What message have you got to the people of Lismore?
Senator Davey, your time has expired. Minister.
The message. Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you, President.
Minister, please resume your seat. Let's just give the Minister a chance to answer before we start the disorderly interjections. Minister.
The message, Senator Davey, that I have for the people of Lismore is that they finally have a federal government who will actually deliver to them. They have a government that shows up. Unlike the former government, certain people from our opposition, as it was at the time, were in Lismore shortly after the floods, and we will deliver. Now, I do need to just correct one thing I said before. The funding that Senator Sheldon announced was $30 million for commercial landlords as opposed to 50, so just to correct the record there. There's so much support that we're putting in, it's sometimes hard to remember exactly how much. There's so much money being put in, which is very much deserved. The announcement the Prime Minister made in Griffith the other day was to announce how the money would be spent. So we have worked with the New South Wales Government collaboratively, something that the previous Liberal and National federal government was unable to do with the Liberal and National government, and we're now getting on with delivering the money.
Your time has expired. Senator White.
My question is to the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, Senator Watt. What are the latest figures from ABARES on the value of Australia's agricultural production and exports?
Minister.
Thank you, Senator White, and I'm really looking forward to seeing your sterling performances on the Rural and Regional Affairs and Transport Committee, which I know you will do so well. And, Senator White, I can confirm that I have good news for farmers and good news for Australians. Today, the Australian Bureau of Agricultural and Resource Economics and Sciences, otherwise known as ABARES, has released their latest report on Australian crops and commodities. This year, farm exports are forecast to be worth a record-breaking $70.3 billion, which is a remarkable achievement. This is the biggest ever agricultural exports in our nation's history. I am shocked, President, that the National Party of all parties wants to yell at us when we have good news for farmers and good news for agriculture. But then again, when you see what the Leader of the National...
Please resume your seat. Order on my left in particular. Minister, please continue.
Thank you, President. It's a shame that they hate good news, President, even when it comes to farmers and agriculture. But then again, it's no surprise when we see what the Leader of the National Party has to say about the National Farmers Federation, calling them cowards and all sorts of other things as well. This is the biggest ever agricultural exports our nation has ever seen. And ABARES has also forecast a winter crop harvest of 55.5 million tonnes. This combination of high yields and high exports is good news for Aussie farmers, farm workers, rural communities and all of us in this country. And it also means that Australia can do its part in contributing to global food supply. Over this side of the chamber, we like good news, especially when it comes to agriculture and our farmers. It's unfortunate that we're not joined on the other side. We know that trade and exports make all the difference in times of stress and food scarcity, and I couldn't be prouder to see Australia more than pulling its weight. And I congratulate all the farmers and all the farm workers who've worked so hard to deliver these fantastic results. It's happening in all sorts of sectors. We know the industry has its challenges.
Senator White, first supplementary.
What fantastic news, Senator Watt. What is the Albanese government doing to support the agriculture industry reach its goal of $100 billion by 2030?
Minister.
Thank you, President, and thanks again, Senator White. As I was just saying in answer to the last question, we know that the agriculture sector has its challenges and we're getting on with solving them. But in the meantime, this data shows that the industry is in good shape, and that's a good thing. In terms of the supplementary question, we are in lockstep with the agriculture sector's ambition to become a $100 billion industry by 2030. And we're not doing that. We are doing this by working with all players in the industry, not dividing them and not fighting against them. We are bringing people together, not hurling insults from the sidelines when it comes to agriculture. And that started with the industry roundtables I held in my first weeks as minister, and it's continued at the Jobs and Skills Summit, where we agreed on measures to help the industry deal with workforce shortages right now. I am stunned. First it was the National Party getting stuck in about agriculture doing well. Now it's the Liberal Party getting stuck in about agriculture doing well. I thought you liked agriculture. I thought you liked rural communities. This is good news for the industry, and all you can do is yell.
Thank you, Minister. Your time has expired. Senator White, Senator White, second supplementary.
What are the main threats to agricultural productivity?
Senator McKenzie.
And what is the Albanese government doing to support industry in addressing these challenges?
Minister.
Thank you, Senator White. Now, when I was suggested that I could ask a question about the threats to agriculture productivity, I took the high road and I decided to not comment on the threats that sit over the opposition. But now that with all this feedback that I'm getting, maybe I'll have to drop the script and revise the answer. It will come as no surprise that one of the major threats to the industry is, this is serious, it will come as no surprise there is one of the major threats to the industry is the risk of exotic animal diseases entering the country from overseas. We've implemented a three-pronged approach to help protect industry by supporting Indonesia to deal with their outbreak, strengthening our borders and by ensuring we are prepared should an outbreak occur. And it's really good to see cattle prices at sales across the country beginning to rebound, in spite of the fear-mongering that we saw from those opposite over the last couple of months. Another serious threat is the impacts that climate change is having on farming, as natural disasters become more fierce and more frequent. And supporting the sector to adapt and improve its climate resilience is imperative to our future food and fibre security.
Thank you, Minister. The time has expired. Senator Canavan jumped. I think I have to go to Senator Wong first.
Yes.
Senator Canavan.
Thank you,
Order.
Madam Acting Deputy. Madam President.
I did.
Sorry? Okay.
Please continue.
Senator Watt's doing such a good
Canavan.
job that my question is to the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry again. On the 9th of August, Labor government announced a $10 million biosecurity cooperation package to assist Indonesia as it responds to foot and mouth disease and lumpy skin disease. Can the Minister for Agriculture outline how many staff have been trained on the ground in Indonesia?
Minister.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Canavan, for giving me an opportunity to talk again about the support that our government is providing Indonesia to deal with its foot and mouth disease outbreak and its lumpy skin disease outbreak. I was very pleased to make the announcement that Senator Canavan refers to, in partnership with Senator Wong, that we would provide $10 million in international development support to Indonesia to assist them with their outbreak. That, of course, comes in addition to the support that we had already offered. Shortly after I was appointed to the role as Minister, I committed 1 million vaccines for foot and mouth disease to Indonesia, which I'm very pleased to say have arrived in Indonesia, have been delivered and are in the process of being provided to farmers as we speak. We then went on to announce, I'm pretty sure the figure was $14 million on my return from Indonesia, in additional support in the form of more vaccines, more technical assistance, diagnostics and other things.
Please resume your seat. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a point of order on relevance. The question was very specific about how many staff had been trained on the ground, and the Minister has mentioned a lot about the package but hasn't gone anywhere near answering the question.
I'll listen closely to the remainder of the question. My understanding was it's primarily about foot and mouth disease, but please, Minister, continue.
Thank you, President. The $10 million package that I announced at the Press Club, and again I recognise Senator Wong for her contribution to that announcement, was a combination of measures. Some of it was staff, and I'm happy to take on notice for you the exact number of staff that are working there. It includes vets and other technical assistance as well. But that money also involves another allocation of vaccines to Indonesia, which we are in the process of procuring. I know there are some people over the other side who think that you should be able to snap your fingers and get those vaccines immediately. That's not how it works. There's a worldwide shortage of those vaccines at the moment, but we are actively engaged in procurement negotiations to obtain another round of vaccines which will be delivered. But as I say, that $10 million goes further than just vaccines. It's things like providing vets, providing diagnostic assistance to make sure that Indonesia has the capability to undertake testing for foot and mouth disease, and a range of other support as well.
Thank you, Senator Canavan. First supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. And that goes to my supplementary question on vaccines. The Minister's already outlined that the package includes vaccines, but can the Minister outline if any vaccines that we have purchased have been administered in Indonesia to date?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Canavan. Just before answering the supplementary question, I should also point out that the support that we're providing to Indonesia in the sense of personnel is also provided remotely. So there will be and will be additional Australian staff on the ground in Indonesia, but some of that support is already being provided remotely back here from Australia as well. As I say, 1 million vaccines that Australia is providing to Indonesia have now arrived. That happened a couple of weeks ago. Again, I'm happy to give you the exact details on notice as to how many of those vaccines have been administered, but my understanding is that the rollout is well progressed. We know that there's an urgent need to get those vaccines into cattle as quickly as possible, and I'm happy to come back on notice with the exact answer.
Senator Canavan, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. The package also includes technical and advisory support to tackle outbreaks in Indonesia. Can the Minister outline exactly what support is being provided to date?
Minister.
Again, thank you, President. Again, I'm happy to provide on notice the exact details of the support that's been provided to date from that package in the form of technical assistance. I think I pretty much already answered what that technical assistance will involve. It's a mixture of veterinary assistance, diagnostics assistance to help with testing capability, the manufacturing of vaccines, because of course Indonesia have said that they want to manufacture their vaccines domestically. But again, I'll come back with the exact details on notice.
Senator Wong.
I'm so tempted to keep going, Madam President, but may I ask that further questions be placed on notice? I had a lot of people on that side wanting.